Hey, Footland, we're going to be talking running backs on today's show. But before we do that, I want to remind you about the Ultimate Draft Kit. The one thing, this is all you need to be ready for your fantasy football drafts at ultimatedraftkit.com. You have our premium rankings, our projections for all offensive players. You have 100-plus player profile videos. You have sleepers, values, breakouts, busts. You have Matt Harmon from NFL.com, his reception perception. There is so much going on. Printable cheat sheets, our tiers. I can't even talk about all the things without running out of air. So head to ultimatedraftkit.com and check it out today.
Hey, it's Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Martin McBride, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, my goodness. Woo, yeah. Welcome to the show. Talking about running backs. Tuesday, August 8th. Today's show is going to be hot. We're talking Targaryen levels.
Oh,
Jason, you caught up?
Dude.
I mean,
we're straight fire.
We're still a spoiler-free show on a Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Hot show today. Hot show. Top 10 running backs. We're jumping right into the rankings shows here on the podcast. These are some of the most popular offseason shows, and we are excited to talk running backs today. Going to try to get through the top 10. I think we can do it. I think we can put our mind to it, make it happen. We're excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Go through the next 10 and some sleepers on tomorrow's episode. Go as deep as we can go, as far as we can get.
We have an exciting announcement.
Yeah,
coming very quickly here on the show.
You just tell me when to unleash.
I'll give you a point. I'll point at you, and then you go. Or maybe we'll sound the horn, the horn of Gondor.
I'm just warming up.
You can follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We are going to do a quick ADP price check for the quick question today. I'm going to quiz these guys on quiz. That is JaQuiz and 4 other players.
That's a Mike joke.
That is a Mike joke. And I'm going to ask you guys where you would draft them, what you think their current ADP is, and we're going to compare that to early July, and see if you guys know where they've moved around in the draft. But I guess before we do that, I'll let Mike share a very exciting announcement, something he's been working on.
I teased this last week, Foot Clan, an announcement we are very excited about.
The beard is coming off.
No.
Oh, that's not it?
No, but you may be able to see the beard, perhaps touch it in person, live, because we're taking the podcast out of the studio and we're bringing the Fantasy Footballers live, a live show where it's going to take place on Monday, September 4th at 7 p.m. That is, in fact, Labor Day. So I know you're not doing anything, so come on out. It's, like I said, in Phoenix, Arizona. It's going to be at a venue called the Crescent Ballroom. Tickets will go on sale this Friday. You're going to hear me talking about it this week, but Friday, you head to ballerslive.com. You grab some seats. This is a show for 16 and up. And if you have some young ones who are 13 and up, as long as they have a guardian, they can come. So we're trying to make this for everyone. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be taking questions live on the show from the Foot Clan, play some games, hang out, meet and greet, hugs for all. It's going to
be a party.
So I'm very, very excited.
Touch the beard.
But just a little bit, though. Make sure the hands are clean.
Not a requirement. You don't have to touch the beard. We don't want people to go, I was going to go, but then they said I got to touch the beard.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but who doesn't want to touch the beard?
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Monday, September 4th, it's at ballerslive.com. This Friday, tickets are limited, so if you want to go, if you're in the Southwest region, or if you want to fly in, our good friend Dr. Football is trying to figure out how to fly over from
Scotland?
From over the sea. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, but
he'll need a plane.
It's gonna be so much fun, and I hope that you can be there.
Cool. Awesome. Let's jump right into that ADP price check, guys. Let's start with JaQuiz Rogers. On July 7th, his average draft position was the 5th pick of the 11th round. So let me know where you think their current ADP is and where you would draft them. Jaquiz Rogers, where do you think he's currently being drafted?
I assume in the last month, especially when the news came out that Doug Martin said, or the news came out that Doug Martin is not a lock to reclaim that starting role, that he's gone through the roof. I start looking for Jaquiz in the 10th round. I want those double digits. I assume he's creeped a little higher than that.
It's all about roster construction. We brought him up on yesterday's mock draft show. But I'm with Jason. 10th round is where I'm looking for him. But depending on how my roster is shaping up, I'm willing to go 8th, 9th round for this rental who's going to give me 3 starting.
If you drafted someone like Zeke and you're not sure yet still where you're at, then 8th,
sure.
9th round.
He's the second pick of the 9th round now.
Okay,
so he's moved up a little more than 2 rounds.
That's still manageable. That's not a problem.
All right, how about Cameron Meredith? July 7th, his ADP was 10:01, so the first pick of the 10th round. Where do you think Cameron Meredith is going now? And, take a guess.
I would say that, there's been little to no buzz publicly about Cam Meredith. The fantasy community is talking about him, but I don't think that he's gotten enough. Like, there's been no Terrell Pryor training camp catch for Cam Meredith.
There was a tiny little bubble for him where people were talking about him, and then he had kind of got sidelined with a little injury. Yes. And then it's like everybody zipped their lips. No more talking about Cameron Meredith.
I think he benefits, though, from the poor news that's been coming out from Kevin White. I mean, everything about Kevin White is like, hey, we're talking to him about how good he was in college to get his hopes up.
Did you hear about that? The rest of that report?
No, tell.
The wide receiver coach came out and said, hey, I showed him film of his old highlights to get him pumped up. And then Kevin White denied the story.
What?
Yeah.
So the receivers coach told him that,
going on.
And then Kevin White's like, "No, that didn't happen."
Someone lying.
It's just a bad situation.
Look,
he's at Cameron Meredith.
I like Cameron Meredith a lot. I would take Cameron Meredith in the 8th round, depending on who else is on the board.
Absolutely, that's what and he's 908 right now, so he has not moved.
Guess, I don't think he's moved.
He hasn't. And if you read by the way, pause.
Oh, this should be the big announcement.
Dun da da. My article that you mocked me for. It has come out. It is released on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com.
7 years in the making.
The 32 shamelessly bold predictions for the 2017 season. I took a stab at a bold prediction for each and every team.
It is really fun.
And Cameron Meredith was my bold prediction for him was 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. So
that's a hot take.
Throwing it out there.
Loving every minute of it.
Latavius Murray activated from the PUP yesterday. Dalvin Cook currently listed as the number 1 running back on the depth chart, but Murray was out there on the practice field. On July 7th, Latavius Murray's average draft position was the 12th pick of the 7th round. Where do you think he is right now?
Oh, he's plummeted.
I bet he's gone down, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to be double-digit rounds.
Ooh, that far?
Yeah, 10th round, 11th round.
I'll go 9.
And the great news is if he is there, I assume he'll rebound. But right now, that's a great deal. I watched him run routes yesterday. He looks fine right now, and it's early enough where he should get plugged into that goal line role.
Let me ask you this, though. Not to prolong this segment too long before we get into the running backs, but he is 9th round. He's 902. But do you think that you would think he's a great deal if he wasn't there and it was Jerick McKinnon at 902? Is it just the name recognition that makes him a great deal? Because this offensive line, people asked me yesterday, they said, look, Dalvin Cook, I was saying I'm rising on him, but why, they said? Because the offensive line is so horrid.
I don't think the offensive line is so horrid anymore. This is one of those offensive lines that has had a big change from last year. They've made some moves. They've got some health. So I don't see it as bad as it was. I said that when we were a couple weeks ago when we were going more in-depth through each team. And because of that, and you add in the fact that, look, Matt Asiata had relevance and goal line opportunity. If you make the offensive line a little bit better and then you take Asiata out and put Latavius Murray in, I think he's going to be fantasy relevant, not a powerhouse.
All right, let's move on. Jamison Crowder. July 7th, his ADP was 702. Where do you think his ADP is now? Mike, are you on board yet?
To be fair, I'm not off of Crowder. I like him. I just don't – I'm not projecting the breakout like very, very many people are, including you guys. You're talking 90-plus receptions. And so I think that he has moved up. I would put him at the back of the 5th.
Oh,
is my guess.
See, I don't think he's moved much. I would put him where was he? Top of the 7th?
702.
Back of the 6th. If he's
Jason's on it. He's 6'10".
Okay.
So he hasn't really moved much.
That's good.
Last one here. Good name. Rashard Matthews.
Ooh, this is a good one.
11th round pick in July, 1102. What's his current ADP? Oh, man.
I feel like Mike and I need to apologize to Rashard Matthews because we were big fans in Miami. Then we were big fans in Tennessee, and we jumped off that boat and said, I'm safer in the water. I don't want to.
I feel like I did I was in the water. I still had my hands on the boat, though, just in case the sharks came around and I could quickly scamper back into the boats.
Okay. Where's his ADP?
Similar.
His ADP's got to you're saying it was 1102. It's got to be super low still. 10th round maybe, but he is looking like a steal in the draft.
Oh, see, he's dropped a lot.
Oh, great.
He's 1107. Or I'm sorry, he's 1207.
With the
Well,
Corey
Decker.
Davis.
Yeah, Decker.
Yeah, Decker
being
showed
signed.
up. But I was saying the Corey Davis injury, I guess that's probably still too new of news to have really impacted his
It
ADP.
should impact it.
Yes.
Matthews is going to make a mark this year. Also news that Marcus Mariota is going to start the preseason game. So he's healthy,
That's
and
excellent.
we'll talk some more news.
News and notes from around the league.
Did we wish everyone a happy Jeff Fisher Day?
Oh, we didn't.
No.
Happy Jeff Fisher Day, everybody.
Jeff
Well, we
Fisher.
want their day to be more than average. So
Hey, look,
we
it's,
didn't.
It's 8-8 day. And
Celebrating mediocrity.
I tweeted this morning. It makes my heart happy to think somewhere in the hills of Montana, Jeff Fisher's phone is blowing up today.
I had a
lot of Twitter notifications.
I had a good friend
You can't
contact
get
me this
tweets on
morning.
a flip phone.
That's true.
I had a good friend contact me this morning, and he said he's so excited for the announcement because it's coming on Jeff Fisher Day.
That's true.
He thought for sure we were going to have Jeff Fisher on the show,
Almost.
but we wouldn't do that to you, Foot Clan.
Actually, I would do that in a heartbeat.
I don't think he would. I don't think he
Based
would
on
agree.
today's tweet, he's not available for comment.
Yeah,
We can go in the hills of Montana. We can find him.
Sure.
do some fly fishing.
He's wrestling a catfish up there or something. Keep wrestling, Jeff. Keep wrestling. All right, the Jets have placed Quincy Enunwa on injured reserve with a neck injury ending this
Quincy.
season. That sucks. Age 25 year, had a great opportunity. Feel bad for the guy. He also was the de facto number one there, so now you're going to have to wade through the Robbie Anderson, who's having a bad camp, Ardarius Stewart. A lot of good news about Chris Harper, who, if you remember Chris Harper, he was a standout in Patriots camp, I believe last year and last preseason. Maybe it was the year before. But he has a lot of talent, and he's got a lot of opportunity all of a sudden. So,
And they're saying Robbie Anderson's having a really bad camp. That's what the.
which is what I just said.
Oh,
Yeah,
I apologize. But because I was too busy over here thinking about Austin Safari and Jenkins.
Yeah, who's been in our UDK
Yeah.
for a while because you need to draft him if –
Well, you
or I
don't
mean,
have-
you need to sign him in week 3.
Yes.
All right. Pete Carroll revealed Eddie Lacy did hit his 250-pound or less requirement
Move
at his
him up.
latest weigh-in. Thomas Rawls and Eddie Lacy split first-team reps during a mock game on Monday. Rawls took the first series in that split of the first-team reps. I'm a big believer in Rawls as a late-round flyer. I think that there's an opportunity there for him to stand out as much as there is an opportunity for Lacy to potentially struggle.
And as the
That's
resident,
not to bury Lacy, by the way. I just think there's a chance.
as the resident, not anti-Rawls, but just I didn't.
You didn't buy yourself a Royce
Right.
last year.
Yeah, I did. I certainly did not. But a free Rolls Royce,
Yeah.
I can get on board with that.
You'd take that down the street.
that's-
You'd take it to the market.
The better value here is clearly Thomas Rawls. That being said, I still fully project Eddie Lacy to be the starter and the lion's share starter. I think they're just working him in slowly. That's how I see it. But if I'm in a draft, Thomas Rawls is without a doubt the better value.
Ted Ginn is listed as the starter opposite Michael Thomas on the Saints' first unofficial depth chart. This is further confirmation of a great offseason by Ted Ginn. He is in a great situation with Drew Brees. He moved up my rankings yesterday. I didn't really take Willie Snead down significantly because I wasn't projecting 100 catches for Willie Snead. Anyways, he was in the 70s. I still have him in the 70s. But Ted Ginn right now is one of my favorite late-round wide receivers. He may be a startable wide receiver 2-3 guy on certain weeks and really could be a factor in this offense. You lose Brandon Cooks, and I think he's going to have passing volume. I think he's going to be around 70 receptions.
Wow, 70?
I do. I think he's going to be in the high 60s.
I wouldn't go that far, but I'm with you that I love Ted Ginn late as
He's a steal.
As a ceiling play for your flex every single week. And this is I'm with Andy again that this is not a downcrease, as Jason would say, on Willie Snead by any stretch. Michael Thomas, Willie Snead will see a lot of targets, and
you have to have
Ted
reasonable.
He's gonna buzz deep several times this year.
You have to have reasonable expectations for Willie Snead. You couldn't have taken Brandon Cooks out of the offense and then just anointed Willie Snead a super high wide receiver 2 role. I just think he's very solidified in that offense, but this is great news for Ted Ginn. All right, this isn't big news for me, but Cooper Kupp listed as a starter in the Rams' first depth chart.
See, I think he's a late-round PPR flyer.
Yeah,
for sure. He fits.
For sure.
For sure. He fits the system. He's a mature
he's gonna be the
wide receiver because he's
Jamison
older.
Crowder of the system. It's just hard for me to. It's just like any of these other teams that haven't had offensive success. I don't know why we debate the 2-3 for wide receiver.
I completely agree. There are so many guys that are super late in drafts that are a flyer on a good team with a good quarterback where they're a deep touchdown option, and maybe that hits and becomes a very relevant fantasy player. If Cooper Kupp hits his ceiling this season, it's going to be a guy that on your bye week, problem week, you start in your flex
and
in
cross
PPR.
your fingers. Yeah. I'm going to skip the rest of this kind of none of the main news except for this. Indy Star has talked Zach Kiefer from the Indianapolis Star. He's writing that Robert Turbin has been, quote, terrific in
This is
camp.
not the first time we've heard this.
No, it isn't. And Turbin last year, despite only, I think, 73 touches, had 8 touchdowns in the Indianapolis offense. I want to remind people what preseason is for if you're a fantasy football player. Preseason, in my history of playing fantasy football, has been to identify with my eyes players that do
look
different than they've looked before and who match the hype that you may have heard about them. A few years ago, Mark Ingram looked very different in preseason. Julius Thomas in Denver, you could see him in preseason. If you go all the way back to when Chris Johnson was a rookie and no one expected him to be a fantasy-relevant player, something special showed in preseason. And last year, Terrence West was an example of another running back you said, wow, a little more pep than I have seen before from Terrence West, and he delivered. If Robert Turbin looks spry, if he looks like he matches this kind of hype in preseason, you need to pay attention. This is the year 34 season for Frank Gore. Turbin already made a goal line impact.
This is his 34th season.
Right.
That feels about right.
Yep.
It's going for that Emmitt Smith record.
That is correct. So, yeah, he was on the original Browns, not the new version. So pay attention to Robert Turbin. You really need to just keep an eye on him.
He's a great late-round guy. I mean,
starting to look that way, definitely. And for those of you who are saying, well, what about Marlon Mack?
He's a scat back.
He's a scat back. All right, hey, we're going to get into the top 10 running backs. Before you do that, we want to say thanks to today's sponsors.
Great sponsors.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, how is there a more perfect sponsor for our show than NFL Game Pass? Guys, every single throw, catch, every 2-minute drill, every 4th and inches, you can see it all. Everything that's happened in the NFL, NFL Game Pass has it. We've talked about it on the show before.
We use it. I mean, that's what we use to analyze film.
When we sit down and have lunch every day, we pull up Game Pass. We pull up players we want to watch. Look, there were so many favorite games from last year. I love rewatching the Super Bowl because it reminds me of Mike crying in the corner when he lost the water bet to me.
It was dirty eyes.
You probably haven't seen that game
Wasn't
again.
crying.
But look, you can replay every game from every angle. Whatever your favorite team is, whatever your favorite fantasy players are, NFL Game Pass has those. They've got you covered for this year's action as well, all the live out-of-market preseason games. You can watch them on there. That's when I always subscribe to Game Pass at the beginning of the year to watch all the preseason games. You have condensed games, so you can watch them all in 45 minutes. You've got coaches' film from all 22. So like I said, if it's NFL football, and it happened, NFL Game Pass has got it. Best of all, you can kick off the 2017 NFL season with a free NFL Game Pass trial right now through our URL, NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. That's NFL.com/fantasyfootballers, free NFL Game Pass trial. Check it out.
Attention, sneaker heads. I know that you're out there because I am one of you. I want to tell you about Stadium Goods. Stadium Goods is a premium sneaker and streetwear marketplace. They sell only the most sought-after footwear and apparel. There's over 100,000 options on this website. And it includes rare collectibles. All their items are unworn, authenticated, mint condition. We all grabbed some fire shoes off of Stadium Goods. I'm a Nike SB guy. I've got a massive collection. I thought, how am I going to add to this? I mean, it's so good.
Upgrade.
But then I saw Stadium Goods, and I picked up a pair of the Hacky Sacks. And look, because I rock my SBs loud and proud, you think people are noticing when I'm rolling down the street with these ridiculously amazing Nikes? Of course they do. Check out stadiumgoods.com to find rare and limited edition kicks, or check out their flagship store at 47 Howard Street in Soho, New York. If you're there, I'm jealous. Let's be honest.
It's awesome.
But for you sneakerheads shopping online, go to stadiumgoods.com, enter our code FOOTBALLERS, get 10% off your first order. That's stadiumgoods.com, and use the code FOOTBALLERS.
All right, let's talk running backs.
Running backs.
All right, we're going to dive into the top 10 running backs. I'm excited. Let's get into it. Number 1, David Johnson.
Whoa! I went for the hoo, and I swallowed my throat. I don't know what happened.
Oh, my goodness.
What
just happened?
It did not feel good.
I feel like we owe David an apology.
Yeah, we do.
my
Oh,
gosh.
goodness. Thank you. Wow. If you want to not miss that, go to the YouTube
I hope that's
version.
not a premonition for the
Whoa.
season. There better be a hoo after David Johnson.
What?
There it is.
All right.
All right, we individually.
Jason's soul left his body.
That was great. That's going to be a moment for the YouTube, for the YouTubers. Mike almost lost his mind.
There's not much to
his
say.
Nike SBs flew right off his feet.
There's not too much to say about David Johnson.
He's number 1 in all of our individual rankings.
He's number 1 in the majority of analyst rankings, and in ADP, he's the clear number 1. You've got a guy who last year had 20 touchdowns. I see that as also a negative in the sense that there is certainly not just room to regress on the touchdowns.
You'd
but
say a likelihood.
Yes, absolutely. I would never project any player for 20 touchdowns in my rankings. That being said,
I project most of my quarterbacks for that, but that's cool.
Sure. Okay, fair. You've got me there. Well played. But the thing is all the reports out of Arizona from just about everybody, whether it's David Johnson or Bruce Arians or
Larry
Fitzgerald, they all talk about desiring to get David Johnson to the 1,000 mark.
I was going to bring it
so
up.
upset that he missed that, which he wouldn't have missed if he didn't get injured in that last game. 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards. If the team cares about that, and he's as talented as he is and as capable as he is, I mean, there's not much left to save. If you get 2,000 total yards, you're going to be worthy of that number 1 pick.
Last year, 293 carries for 1,239 yards and 16 touchdowns on the ground, 80 receptions for 879 yards and 4 touchdowns on 120 targets through the air. He is
ridiculous.
2 players in 1.
He's a wide receiver 3 to go along with your running back 1.
You get an extra roster spot, essentially. You get to play one more player than your opponent. With
He averaged 54.9 receiving yards per game on 7.5 targets a game. Despite the volume, right, he was still 4th in the league in yards per reception from the running back position. One of the most mind-blowing things. You look at Tevin Coleman, Spencer Ware, Ezekiel Elliott, who were all in that top 5.
They were great.
They all had 30 receptions.
Yeah, and you look at their yards per reception, you say, well, that's not sustainable. They only had 30 receptions. But David
Nonsense.
Johnson.
David Johnson could do it.
80 receptions at 11 per reception. He was an RB1 or 2 in every week except for the last week when he was injured. So 93% of the weeks. The injury was minor. He's back. He's healthy. And the team is willing and able to ride him. He's everything you want in a fantasy football superstar. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about someone else. And we're going to talk about the 1B. 1A, 1B
Very
in my
fair.
mind.
Very
Le'Veon
fair.
Bell, you know the name. It's not even 1A, 1B. It's one capital A, one lowercase a. I mean,
Yeah.
however close as
David
you
Johnson,
can
Le'Veon
get.
Bell.
He averaged more
Just
targets.
one name.
More targets than David Johnson did per game. 7.8 compared to 7.5. He was absolute fire when he was on the field last year. He ran for over 1,200 yards.
In 12 games.
In 12 games. He had 94 targets, 75 receptions, and his pace was incredible. So if you want to take Le'Veon Bell before David Johnson, go right ahead. That's absolutely fine.
I would take Le'Veon Bell over David Johnson if it wasn't for the possible injury risk. I view him as a slightly higher injury risk.
And suspension risk.
But I don't view him as a suspension risk, but you're right. I mean, maybe he is. I don't think he has the same track record as what he's been suspended for. It doesn't worry me. But his injury risk to me is the only reason, especially with him holding out right now, not being in camp, getting that later start, and you see that happen from time to time. If he was in camp, I might take him over David Johnson just because he has a longer track history of doing this. Always, when he's out there, he's the best in the league.
Martavis Bryant is healthy. With Antonio Brown, with Big Ben, you could argue that this offense is better than Arizona's. You could argue that they'll be better this season, and with those weapons around him, as long as he's on the field, they've shown the willingness to pretty much run the offense front to back through Le'Veon Bell. If you remember the Buffalo games last year, it wasn't like he was coming off the field when these were blowouts. He was still there. So that's what you got to love about Lev Bell. Look, it's not rocket science, these first two on the rankings, but that's why. That's why they're there. Let's move on to number 3 on the running back rankings.
Now, this is going to be surprising.
It might be. LeSean McCoy is number 3 on our rankings here. I have him at 3. Jason and Mike, you both have him at 4. This is obviously because I do not have Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes,
currently.
you
have crushed our Ezekiel Elliott rankings.
Oh, and just to be fair,
crushed is hard because Zeke is next. Just spoiler alert.
And yeah, but you need to explain this where you have proactively bumped Zeke down. Jason and I haven't altered his projections yet. We're still waiting for the news to drop, but I do agree with Andy. I'm confident that something is going to happen, so Zeke will likely end up as the 4.
That is correct.
Back to Shady. I apologize.
I've moved
to you,
him
Shady.
down because I wanted to give people drafting right now a fair expectation of where I would draft him. So
Right.
that's what my rankings reflect. So LeSean McCoy, like I said, his ADP right now is the 7th pick of the first round. Love Shady. Shady did everything we could have hoped for last year. Played 15 games, had over 1,200 yards, caught 50 passes. What do you want to tell people about LeSean McCoy? Expectations for this year. I think some people are curious about the potential offensive changes when Rex Ryan's not there. They were so run heavy with Rex Ryan. How will McCoy be used? What are your expectations, Mike?
Well, I expect the team to still be run heavy. They still have a fantastic offensive line, and similar to David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, the team runs through LeSean McCoy. The offense is powered by Shady. Now, there are a couple red flags with LeSean McCoy, and most notably his ability to go down with injury, but somehow recover. But it still seems like he
doesn't miss a lot of games.
Yeah, but you think that he's going to be out for the season at least 5 times per game. And his touchdowns. There's been a massive fluctuation with LeSean McCoy's touchdown. He had 13 rushing last year, but 2015, 3. 2014, 5. I mean, so and he's had a year of 17 rushing touchdowns. He's had a year of 2 rushing touchdowns. He fluctuates. It's got to be more than any other high-profile running back in the league. I still have tremendous amounts of faith in Shady McCoy. There was a hype alert saying out of Buffalo saying that LeSean McCoy could actually lead the team. Yes, please get that train rolling. He could lead the team in receptions. which would be redonkulous.
Yeah, I mean, the fluctuation in touchdowns is legitimate, but if you look at their offensive line, the run scheme, what they want to do as a team, the fact that you had Mike Gillislee leave, I think you have to project that he has another successful season when it comes to touchdown totals. LeSean McCoy is as consistent as any, outside of those top two guys. You look at, LeSean McCoy over the last 3 years, 75% of his games, he's an RB2 or better. Over 50% of his games, he's an RB1 or better. I mean, that is
or better. He's better than a 1.
Yeah, he's an RB0.
That is incredible.
Transcendent.
And when you compare, the guys that are up there that have done that at that percentage, you're talking about Jordan Howard, who has only played 16 games, Zeke, who's only played 16 games, Shady
15.
Yeah, Shady has 43 games in the last 3 years, and he is that consistent. He's set up to win, and he is clearly the third or fourth back, depending on what you do with Zeke, out there. And the question that I get more than anything is, I'm the 5th pick in the draft, the 6th pick in the draft. Do I take Shady over Julio and Odell Beckham? That's the question that everyone is always asking. Would you? You're at 5 or 6 on the clock in a, let's just say, half-point PPR league.
You broke it for me. I was going to say PPR, it's easy. I still take the receivers.
Half-point PPR, what would you guys do? I think I would go receiver.
I would still take one of the big 3 receivers.
Yeah, that's certainly the chalk way to do it. I mean, if you want a running back, you don't feel guilty taking
Yeah, certainly not.
That's kind of the message, I think. Don't feel guilty taking LeSean McCoy. If you feel like you can draft wide receiver later, you get a locked and loaded running back. I mean, his role is secure. I'm not sure the leading the team in receptions thing is more a reflection on his ability as a pass catcher, or the fact that Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy and they have now Anquan Bolden and Zay Jones on that roster, and those receiving totals might not be very significant. But yeah, LeSean McCoy, that's the case. Number 4, Ezekiel Elliott. I have him at 8 right now as a reflection of the potential suspension. Jason and Mike at 3, as we said.
But just to clarify for the people, if it comes out Zeke has no suspension,
he's right back at 3.
Okay.
All right, 15 games last year, 322 carries. That's a big workload. 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns. And I think the area that people are excited about, I don't know if they'd be surprised to see those numbers go down. Maybe he's around the 300 carry mark. Maybe he's at 1,300, 1,400 yards. I think you're really, really happy. 12 to 15 touchdowns still seems very likely. But where people are excited about Zeke and his potential is the fact that on the 32 receptions, he pretty much led the league in yards per reception at the running back position. He only had 363 yards and 1 receiving touchdown, but there's room to grow. The top 2 guys in our list, the number 1 and number 2, they're there because the receiving totals are so high. If you were just looking at rushing totals, if you were not counting receptions from the running back position, is Zeke the number 1? Because I think he would be.
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep in mind that he did not play in the last week of the season when you look at his season totals as well. 32 receptions, but that was in 15 games. I expect him to be up at least at 40 this year. His 16-game pace was 1,740 yards, 16 touchdowns, another almost 400 receiving. Zeke is worthy of the 3rd pick. If he's suspended 3 games or less, I'm taking him at 3 overall. Okay. That's my view. I think he's that valuable.
Now, historically speaking, since 2010, when you have a rusher go over 1,600 yards, like Andy was talking about, there's been regression where these guys, Shady was the only person to eclipse 1,300 yards after a 1,600 rushing yard season. Now, 1,300 rushing yards, I'll take that. I will gladly take that. Just saying.
He might have that due to suspension. He may end up with 1,200 yards because he misses 4 games or something to that extent.
But he's fantastic. He's still my 3. I'm with Jason that if he misses 3 or less, I would still take him 3rd overall. We saw last year the penalty that people paid by letting Le'Veon Bell drop in the draft.
All right. Let's go ahead and anything else you want to touch on with Zeke? I mean, people know the story.
Nope. It's just waiting on the news.
All right. Number 5 on our list here is Devonta Freeman, running back for the Atlanta Falcons last year, 227 carries for over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and then made, Brooks, you put this in here. Very interesting. 54 receptions for 4,462 yards.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's
Why is he
good.
not our number one?
Yeah, we have made mathematical errors not putting him at number 1. 54 receptions, 2 touchdowns through the air, had 65 targets. Look, last year he was an RB1 or 2 81% of the time. This in spite of all the doubt that people had about his workload, doubt about Tevin Coleman's workload increasing. What do we think about Devonta Freeman repeating that this year, and should owners be exceptionally – oh, his receiving yardage went down to 462.
Oh, what? That's a
That's-
4,000 drop.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Are you disappointed in the fact that his receiving yardage dropped, Jason, and is that going to make you move him?
That won't make me move him other than from the number 1 spot. Devonta Freeman is far and away to me, like, he is the next highest after Shady. There's only one other guy put in that tier when it comes to me personally. Over the last 2 years, which is basically when Devonta Freeman took over, the only guys with a higher percentage of RB1 or 2 finishes are Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, and LeSean McCoy. Now, when you go, okay, we're projecting things forward, you've got all the talk there in Atlanta about still trying to work a long-term deal with Devonta Freeman. They love him. You watch the film on NFL Game Pass. Go back and watch games. It's hard to bring him down. He is perfect for their scheme. He fits everything that they're doing. And yes, I have been the Mr. Regression alert for Atlanta. But I don't worry about him at all because he has been better when Tevin Coleman's on the field. And 2 years ago, when Atlanta was much more just a pretty decent offense rather than the straight Targaryen fire they were last year, he was the number 1 back. And he is literally the only guy in the last 2 years that each year had 1,000 yards rushing. I think he's consistent. I think he's necessary for the offense. He gets enough goal line work and passing down work where I have no fear in Freeman at all.
Is Alex Mack still there?
Yes.
Yeah. Devonta Freeman's going to be excellent.
I think why people have a problem with a player like Freeman over Murray or some of the bigger names because he has to be efficient to give you fantasy value. He doesn't carry the ball 300 times. But
he catches it 50 plus.
He catches it 50 plus. He was 73 receptions in 2015. If you just Google Devonta Freeman, you're going to be hit with the same old articles. Look, Number Fire article. Devonta Freeman is overvalued. Fan-sided article. Fan-sided article 1 day ago. Fan-sided article. Devonta Freeman is a fantasy football bust, according to Fan-sided 21 hours ago. This is the same story you get every year, but I think the baseline for him is so high because he's going to be over 1,000 yards. He'll probably be double-digit touchdowns in that offense, and he's going to catch the ball. So we love him. I think he's a little bit higher on our boards than he is some other people's boards, but his average position is 111 right now.
That's great. I mean, when literally we get the question all the time. I'm at the end of the first round turn. Who am I hoping gets there? It's always for me. It's Devonta Freeman. If he gets there, that's who
for me. It's David Johnson. I hope he gets.
Sure,
he gets to the back of the first.
Fair enough.
Number 6.
That falls apart a lot of the time at pick 2, though.
Yeah, it's trouble.
It's doubles.
DeMarco Murray, number 6 on our rankings. Number 7 on my board, 6 on both of your guys. Reports this morning that he's almost back out on the practice field, had a hamstring tweak. Last year, he was DeMarco Murray again. 293 carries, over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, caught 53 passes. Was on the field on pretty much every important down for the Titans. He should be the stalwart in the backfield again this year. If you take out the last 2 weeks, which arguably he was injured.
Not arguably. He had a foot injury.
Other than that, I mean, you're looking at top 10 performances all but 4 weeks. RB1 or 2, 87% of the time. And he was back to being his same old self.
Because he was in a scheme that utilizes DeMarco Murray. You go back when he was on the Eagles, it was so frustrating to watch Chip Kelly insist on trying to get DeMarco Murray moving laterally instead of just send the wrecking machine up into the line. I mean, the exotic smash mouth.
You think we're moving Jason more laterally? No, we're moving him straight up the middle.
Yeah. You don't want me going side to side. I need a head of steam, and then you try to take me down.
And that head of steam, I remember flag football.
Yeah.
You'd kick yourself right in the butt running down the field.
Running down, but no one would grab me, and the ref would make fun of me and say, "You run like what did he say?" He's like, "Oh normal. No," he's like, "You're the ugliest runner I've ever seen." It's like I got a touchdown.
And last year, DeMarco Murray accounted for nearly 23% of the team's red zone targets. I mean, you don't. When you think of DeMarco Murray, you don't. Yes, voice of public opinion. Yes.
But Mike, Derrick Henry was drafted to be used, and he's there behind him. Doesn't DeMarco Murray have a chance to just lose his role as a workhorse?
No, I don't think he has a chance to lose his role as a workhorse. You could see a closer split, but why move away? This is DeMarco Murray. I think it comes down to how do you project the team? How do you think that will they have success this year, and would they move away from what was so successful last year? Like that's the big question for me. And the answer is you have Murray there still. Ride till the wheels fall off, so to speak.
Winnable division.
And I just don't see a reason for the team to move away from Murray. And he had massive success on the field, massive fantasy success.
And they have such a good offensive line. Yes. They are set up to succeed. They want to run the ball. And the way that the team views DeMarco Murray is more important than how you view DeMarco Murray. They don't view him as old busted. They view him as one of the best running backs in the league, and he really is. Someone on Twitter pointed this out to me, and I thought it was absolutely great. If I remember who it was, I would love to give you credit. But, they gave me a player A, player B scenario and said, who would you rather have? Player A averages 16.2 rushing attempts a game. Player B, 16.9. It's better. Player A, 76.5 yards per game. Player B, 77.6. So it's better. Both half a touchdown a game. Receiving totals, 3.3, 3.2, 25 yards, 22 yards, and the same touchdowns. So they're almost identical. They're the same age player, except one has hundreds of fewer touches in his career, and that was LeSean McCoy versus DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray has a higher 3-year percentage of top 1 and 2 finishes, and the 3-year version includes when he was in Philly. DeMarco Murray is legit great, and he's the only other guy I put like this. To me is where the drop-off happens. I know that other guys will probably finish higher than some of these. Maybe Melvin Gordon pops off again. But this is where I'm confident in everybody we've talked about so far, including DeMarco Murray. I drop in my confidence a little bit after him.
All right, let's talk about Melvin Gordon, our number 7 running back on our top 10 running back rankings. I have him at 4 right now. Obviously, he moves up a spot because Zeke is further back due to the potential suspension for me. So he's just behind LeSean McCoy. So he's the next best running back on the board for me. Mike, you have him at 9, Jason at 7. Last year, he was downright great. I mean, he had multiple number 1 fantasy weeks. It was an RB1 or 2 92% of the time.
Basically 100% of the time, really.
Because he was hurt.
His injury game, yeah.
Yeah, basically 100% of the time. He was incredibly consistent. I hear people criticize the yard per carry type of number.
Yep.
Look, he's their whole offense. I put the smallest single drop into that argument. When he is your whole offense, when he gets the ball as much as he got it, 254 carries despite missing the end of the season. I mean, this guy would have been up there at around 300 carries. Just under 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, caught the ball, did everything the team asked them to do on an offense that was beat up, bruised, and losing a lot. I mean, he did everything that was asked of him. He has the physical talent and skill and ability to do it again. I love Melvin Gordon, and I think the reason I have him ranked so high, too, has to do with the pieces are back in Los Angeles. Phillip Rivers is a competent and capable quarterback. He has weapons now. This is going to be a good offense. This is going to be an offense where he has the opportunity on the goal line, and he's going to have it a lot. So I'm very bullish on Melvin Gordon. I love him this year.
He could certainly – I mean, he was drafted with the pedigree to say you are an all-star, all-pro type of running back, and he was last year. The offensive line is better. Anthony Lynn, the new head coach, is a running guru. The fact that they drafted Mike Williams said to me, because he was the best, run-blocking wide receiver on the edge that I've seen in college in a while, they look to me set up to have Melvin Gordon succeed. But there are plenty of other worries here of, touchdown regression. He went from 0 to, what do you have, 12 or 14 last year total?
Yeah, total he had 12.
Yeah,
So
10 rushing touchdowns.
12 total touchdowns last year. You have Keenan Allen back and some different parts to the offense. So I think Melvin Gordon is clearly going to be the main back. I'm not scared of Brandon Oliver or any of the other backs there. You know, he'll be involved in the passing game. I like Melvin Gordon, I do, but I just have more worries with him that if he doesn't improve his efficiency and the touchdowns, you know, aren't there this season, will we be disappointed for where he's being drafted right now?
And despite my criticism of Melvin Gordon, I still have him as a top 10 fantasy running back because I'm not going to make an argument against his usage. He's going to get the ball a ton. While I'm not scared or nervous of Brandon Oliver taking a huge chunk of work, he still will get on the field. Last year, it was Melvin Gordon that was the only person of any kind of competence.
Danny Woodhead went down.
Yes.
Brandon Oliver went down.
And we've seen Brandon Oliver have success in this offense. So I think that he will get some touches. But I just have great concerns taking Melvin Gordon in the first. I get knocked all the time for liking guys who are injured. Melvin Gordon in his couple years has not played 16, so I don't know why you guys give him the free pass on that situation.
I don't give him a free pass, but it's very difficult to find running backs who haven't missed games. I mean, DeMarco Murray, LeSean McCoy, even Devonta Freeman. You know, it's tough to find any running back that's just always out there 16.
I think it's a bad logical argument to work past, early seasons into these projections for young guys. So when you have a rookie who comes into the league, okay, he had no touchdowns. I can't believe we're still talking about no touchdowns for Melvin Gordon going into year 3. He had 12 last year and he missed 4 games. So I think it's important we realize players, if you've been in the league 7 or 8 years, okay, maybe you see a pattern, but he's developing his pattern. He's becoming a player. He's not just what he is. So that's why I'm more excited about him. Ajayi comes in at number 8. I have him at 6. Jason and Mike have him at number 8. So we all like Ajayi quite a bit. We talked a little bit about the implication of Cutler coming into that offense. We've talked at length about the fact that Ajayi, look, he wasn't good in the passing game. Just 29 receptions, really low yard per reception totals, only 1 touchdown, 50 targets. But last year had a couple of those monster games, 1,300-plus yards.
410 of his yards were against Buffalo.
Yeah, and he didn't play week 1. He was kind of wrestling the job away from soon-to-retire Arian Foster at that point. But he's hyper-talented. We've talked about that before. One of the reasons he dropped in the NFL draft was concerns about basically, look, his knees aren't going to last forever, and so he dropped. But right now, here and now redraft, Ajayi has every chance to be workhorse extraordinaire. I mean, you talk about the rise of the running back, the return of the running back. We saw this last year. All these names that we've brought up, they fit the workhorse role. You're not there's no RBBC happening in Miami.
Now, do you think that it's a chance that it wasn't the return of the running backs as a whole, that this is now back to the running back being king, but it was just an outlier, that last year was maybe you saw wide receivers get fewer touchdowns as far as top wide receivers, and those translated over to the rushing game? I think that's a question for people. You look back a couple years ago when there were several 1,000-yard rushers, as there are every year, and none of them repeated. And
well, I'm not talking about the stats, Jay. I'm talking about the fact that the return of the running back. Look, do you debate that any of those top 8 running backs that we've talked about so far are the workhorse back for their team?
Nope.
So that's all I'm talking about.
You're talking workhorse versus.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
committee.
running back is there. He's the guy that's going to get the ball. These guys all had huge touch totals.
Yeah, so with Ajayi, I mean, you've got new Smokin' Jay Cuddy in town. That to me says two things that
old Smokin' Jay
Cuddy. Two
Did
things.
you see was that a real quote about him talking about his cardiovascular?
It was.
Oh, really?
There's video. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Share that quote with our audience.
So I don't have the verbatim, but it's basically he said, it's a good thing I play quarterback because then I don't have to be in great cardiovascular condition.
That's what you want your quarterback to say. And also,
Smokin' Jay Cuddy just admitted that he's been throwing back 3 cartons a day.
Yeah, and he's
eating potato chips.
Hey Jay, why are you back? My wife really wanted me to come, and Adam Gase really tried hard. It's like, do you want to be here, or is this just everyone else wants you to be here?
Don't care.
Here's what Jay Cutler does for Jay Ajayi. It says to me that they're going to, just like when Matt Moore came over and was thrust into starting, they relied on the running game. They wanted to focus on the running game. And now they'll be able to rely on the running game, but have a quarterback that says, you can't stack the box. We have deep threats in Parker and Stills and a large arm that can get him the ball. So you're going to have to watch the passing game, watch the running game. And you have Matt Forte for years has been a pass-catching back. His quarterback was Jay Cutler. In college, Jay Ajayi's last year, he caught 50 balls for over 500 yards. He can get the job done. And if he's utilized in that role, Jay Ajayi will go from having, all of his production came in a few games, to having a higher baseline in those game scripts that weren't good for him because he's involved in the passing game. Now, there's also the chance that Kenyon Drake could be more involved in the passing game now.
Damian Williams.
Oh, get rid of
I just say they
No, I know they love Damian
touches.
Williams. I just don't understand why Miami loves Damian Williams.
He's a very.
Do you have
he's
any thoughts on
upstanding
Jay Ajayi,
citizen.
Mike?
I agree that it's taken me time, but I've come to terms. I've accepted Jay Ajayi as a running back 1, and I bumped up his reception total when Jay Cutler was signed to the team. It's hard to hold it against a player when you do something like 410 yards were against one team of your 1,300 rushing yards. I mean, that's a huge percentage coming in just 2 games. And then essentially when he didn't go full ham, he's only getting you 60 rushing yards a game. And that's not what you want out of a first-round pick. But I think that the reception totals help him. And a lot of it has to do with Mike Pouncey. I mean, the
health
lineman,
of the offensive line.
Yeah, the health, and especially Mike Pouncey. When Jay Ajayi had good games, Mike Pouncey was playing.
All right, number 9, Jordan Howard comes in at number 9. I have him at 10. Jason, you got him at 9. Mike, you have him at 7. Right now, his average draft position is the beginning of the second round in a PPR league, 204. And last year, set the world on fire. 252 for 13 and 6 touchdowns. 29 receptions for 298 yards and 1 touchdown. And this is a guy who did not have the role.
Second leading rusher in the league, despite not being the starter for the first few games.
The main concern with Jordan Howard is just going to be it's his job. The concern is going to be how good is this offense going to be? Is it going to put him in a position to, be Carlos Hyde? Is it going to be from last year where you just don't have a lot of goal line opportunities? The touchdown totals are very, very unlikely to get into the double-digit range for Jordan Howard. So maybe you lose that upper echelon ceiling week to week. Maybe not, though. I mean, he had a few weeks last year against Indianapolis. He was the number 4 fantasy back. He was the number 1 against Minnesota, number 2 against San Francisco, number 8 against Green Bay. What that tells me is outside that Minnesota game, he exploited some of these bad rushing defenses to the tune of top 10 performances. Last year, 70% of the time was a RB1 or 2. He's to me maybe I love the role. I'm just curious about the offense. Different quarterback, different.
I get the concerns about Jordan Howard. I don't want my top pick to be on a bad offense. This is why I was concerned with spending that 101 last year on Todd Gurley. There's just it's sketchy because you're not going to get the burst games, those touchdown games. But Jordan Howard, even on a bad team, was dominant. His final 9 games, he had 100+ yards from scrimmage. I mean, this wasn't
when he was playing with Matt Barkley, wasn't
he? For part of that, yes. I mean, he is a really, really good running back. The offensive line in Chicago is good enough. So it's up to their defense. Can they keep the game script manageable for Jordan Howard, who he's not the best pass catching back.
No, he is not
in the world. He can catch a football, but it's not his specialty by any
when
stretch.
He catches it, when he actually secures it. After that, good things have happened.
Yeah.
that's the funny thing about Howard is he was in that top 5 of yards per reception with David Johnson and with Zeke and Ware and Coleman.
I don't remember the stat, but his percentage of drops on targets was comical. I mean, he is not.
Like I said, it's not his strength.
Here's the thing: it wasn't his strength from college.
No, it wasn't. And Matt Barkley didn't help.
In 3 years in college, he had a grand total of 24 receptions. He had 4, 9, and 11. His career high college year was 11 receptions. He's not a pass catcher.
So there was some surprise when the ball was coming at him last year?
They draft Tariq Cohen. So this is, to me, a first and second down back who is extremely talented with a good offensive line, but in a role that's going to be in bad game scripts and not score touchdowns. I think he's going to be your quintessential RB2. You know, he's gonna give you what Lamar Miller gave you last year, which is gonna upset you if you draft him where you have now. If you look at his touchdowns last year, the big problem, he only had 6 touchdowns on the season. Yeah, 3 of those came in one game against the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
That means there were only 4 games on the season that he actually scored a touchdown.
I actually watched the film on him running a route, and he turns around, he starts waving his hands.
Saying no.
He's not saying I'm open.
Oh, he's saying don't do it.
He's saying I'm open. Don't throw me the ball.
Yeah, I think you make a good argument, and that was false. Mike didn't actually see that in the film.
Or did I?
So, no, you make a good point. And look, people have told me if you had to pick somebody to bust from that upper echelon of running backs last year, Howard is a candidate for me. Because if he does get pulled into a first and second down role and the team struggles, let's say Jordan Howard ends up with 4 touchdowns on the year. That's going to be a disappointment from where you have to draft him.
And they brought in Benny Cunningham. So they brought in Todd Gurley, his old pass-catching nemesis, and Benny Cunningham, which Cunningham's a good pass-catching back.
Todd Gurley rounds out our top 10. He is our number 10 running
he certainly
back.
rounds things out.
Andy is my name, and I have him at 11. Jason has him at 10. Mike has him at 13. We've talked about Todd Gurley. I love him this year. It's Jason's favorite player is Todd Gurley.
Don't you put that evil on me,
on
Ricky
recent
Bobby.
episodes. And his average draft position right now, if you think he's going to return to form potentially, he's going at the back of the second round for a player who, despite having as bad of a season as you can with 278 carries, still finished inside that top RB1-2 range 56% of the time. I don't want to talk him into the ground.
No.
But the upside is there, especially with the commitment by Sean McVay to get him involved in the passing game. Camp reports have been good. In joint practices with the Chargers, it was reported that Gurley was, pretty much dominant on the field. So can he translate that? Can he be committed? Signs are good, but he needs to do it on the field.
Now, you can take this stat either way. You can say that, this is a good sign for him because there should be return to the mean, or this is just a sign of how bad things were. So last year, 7 running backs had 300-plus touches. The other 6 were running back ones. And I had to go back to 2012 to find a running back who had 300-plus touches who wasn't a running back one. And that was Chris Johnson in 2012. The top 5 running backs in total touches, they were all top 5 fantasy running backs except for Todd Gurley.
Yeah, so you can take it as he really stinks, or you can take it as
should be a top 12
that's
running
what I mean.
back. And if you remember Scott Barrett's work, this is Jeff Fisher Day, National Jeff Fisher Day. He found
what a perfect
day.
This
is a perfect end to today's show. He found out that when he went back and looked at those most inefficient, high volume running backs who didn't get the job done, it was like 3 of the top 5 played for Jeff Fisher, and Jeff Fisher is gone. I think that's going to change. I look at Todd Gurley at the back of the second. You get him at the 2-3 turn versus the 1-2 turn with Jordan Howard. Todd Gurley's probably getting 40-plus receptions versus 20-something for Howard. This is why. It's because of where he's going in the draft and the baseline, not because I believe Todd Gurley's going to be a top 5 back by any stretch. I don't think it's going to happen. But I think he's a safe pick, and his floor is high, and he has room to grow based on everything you're just saying there. If he does get 300 touches, which I think he will, it's going to be – he is going to have to suck to not be top 12 next year.
Yeah, he's probably going to be –
maybe he does.
Probably going to be over 300 touches because, 270-something carries last year, and, you talk about 40 receptions. He's going to be up at that 310, 320 range. All right, number 1, David Johnson, 2, Lev Bell, 3, LeSean McCoy, 4, Ezekiel Elliott, 5, Devonta Freeman, 6, DeMarco Murray, 7, Melvin Gordon, 8, Ajayi, 9, Jordan Howard, 10, Todd Gurley, and tomorrow we shall bring you running backs 11 through however far we can get.
We will bring you more running
backs.
You know, honestly, we're bringing you the more important running backs because everybody knows.
Sure.
Everybody knows the top guys. Everyone focuses on those the first and second round. But it's when you get into rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, where are you drafting the gems that are going to help you get to the playoffs?
Yeah, and we'll throw a couple running back sleepers in the tail end of the show tomorrow as well, on top of the 11 through however far we get. So it's going to be a great show. Thank you very much for supporting us. And a reminder, hey, subscribe on iTunes. Now's the time. If you enjoy the show, you enjoy the content, you're over on YouTube or you're on iTunes or you're on Google Play on your Android device, wherever you're at, we always appreciate a good review if you like the show. And we invite you to come hang out with us at jointhefoot.com.
Yeah, we always tell you don't win the championship at your draft, so make sure you subscribe, stick with us through the season. Maybe you'll even be in the listener league with us. Remember, submissions close soon. Email.
Yeah, what's the email address?
Yeah, if you want to submit an entry for the listener league, you email us, listenerleague@fantasyfootballers.com. Send your entry over there. We've received many hundreds of
awesome.
entries.
Thank you guys so
we
much.
We close it on Friday.
Yep.
Correct?
So you got to the end of the week. And finally, just want to remind people about the Secret to Victory podcast. It's a new podcast from Gatorade and Gimlet Creative about how the best athletes in the world use defeat to fuel a win. This week, you'll hear from Serena Williams about being on the wrong side of the biggest upset in the sport, how it drove her to come back stronger than ever. So visit Gatorade.com/podcast, listen now, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Sounds pretty good. Things are getting fun, guys.
Oh, man, this season is so great. I feel the football fever.
Ooh.
And
It's
you don't want
the Beazles.
You don't want no prescription for that.
Oh, no.
You want that to infect.
I need to spread everywhere.
You let it
infect
burn.
my
I mean,
friends.
Let
you
it
take
burn.
nothing, you just let it burn and work its way through.
Like the chicken pox parties that you used
Yes.
to have? They need that. With the football fever, you get your friends together and you spread it.
Yeah.
You spread it like
Except for they do those parties to
malaria.
build up immunity, and I don't want immunity.
No, we want.
I want the
There's
bees.
no
I want
vaccine.
no immunity.
I want someone to inject me with it once a year.
This is
which
getting really
they do.
weird, fellas.
Hey, check out playdraft.com/ballers if you want to play some best ball with us.
Get a free entry.
I'm gonna do a game today, so watch our Twitter for a link if you want to join in with me. And don't forget, the Fantasy Footballers Live, ballerslive.com, tickets on sale this Friday.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.